Welcome to Toy Business Unboxed, your gateway to the secrets of the toy industry. Here, Jason Shea, a toy entrepreneur and expert in the field.
Every product we develop is really inspired by some of the real life experience that we have with our son.
60% of all toys last year were sold on Amazon, which is incredible.
Be passionate about it because it's a road, it's a journey.
Like when you have an idea that you think is like gonna somewhat change the world, make things better, I'd say go for it.
We'll guide you through the enchanting world of toy design, marketing, and manufacturing. Now let the unboxing begin.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Toy Business Unboxed. Today we have a very unique episode because we'll be interviewing three different co-founders all at the same time. And they are the creative mind behind Pektis, the innovative board game studio founded in 2020. Coming from a very diverse background in visual design, architecture, and also education, the trios really share their journey across the very different type of background. So thank you so much for joining our podcast today. So I don't know who want to go first because we have three different people. So
a little bit of introduction, I guess. So my name is Echo, and I'm one of the co-founder for Pektis Studio. And mostly I'm doing right now design and PR and marketing.
I'm Mahmoud, the second of the trio. I'm an architect originally, and we work together also on the same project and working on multiple projects from design to visualization to art to everything.
I'm Julian, and in my normal job, I'm a teacher. And I also do the stuff like finance, shipping, and everything nobody likes to do.
Logistics.
Which is part of the process, yeah.
So, let's start out with the origin story. How did three of you come together, and what sparked the idea behind the company?
Well, I think between me and Julian, it's easier. We're married. So, wherever I go, so he goes with me. And Mahmoud, I'm also architect. We used to work together in one company together. So that's where we realized we all have a passion for board games. And actually back then we already start our own board game design. So, that's just how we get to know each other, by playing games.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is how it started first as colleagues, and then we came across, also me and Julian, we became friends by playing board games together, and that's how it grew. It's aside from the passion of playing board games, all three of us like to also, like so many other people in the industry, design our own game and started to do that. It's only when we started to think together as a collective on how to develop with each other that the idea popped up of that we actually can do something together or try to make it real.
Yeah.
And that was around 4 years ago, I believe.
4 years ago.
When the spark of the idea started. It started with a project, I would say, before the company originally, and then that took it through the process. Okay, in order to have a game, we need to have a company, and that's how the Pektis Studio started, or the idea for Pektis Studio started.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And I know all three of you have very diverse or very different background. And how does those skills kind of shape your approach when it comes to like the board game design, and how does that also shape the direction of the companies?
Well, I have to say, if I would start by saying the obvious that we all three agree on and share about, is that this, we believe, is our strongest point of the fact that we come from very different cultures, very different mentality, and very different academic knowledge. Like you said, like you mentioned before, both me and Echo are architects. Julian is a teacher. He comes from an education background. We come from a visual communication background. And as it turned out, when we started thinking together, we realized that through the skill set or through what we learned in these fields, it covers the whole process of making a game design, or from actually not just the design part, but what comes after as well, for the most part. So it's like in architecture, if you're doing a project design architecture, you have to follow some principles and or a flow of a project, which can be applied in different things. In education, the same thing. Julian can elaborate better, but it's also including in how to convey the information through game design and user experience from the game. That all added into that. And when we combined these ideas, okay, our knowledge in visual communication, as in from 3D modeling to rendering to art to graphic design to illustration to design itself, learning design principles and design development being applied on this project, marketing and social, and whatever also publishing and production and distribution, all of that. Some of the experience were direct output from our background, and others we learned a lot of
On
things.
the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me it's also in many parts what Mahmoud said, but of course from my perspective, when I have to teach children something or try to make a theme interesting for them to learn, I always have to think, how can I break something down and transfer the informations that they should learn. And for games, there's very big crossover in that, because when I have an idea or I have a personal interest, then I have to think, okay, and I want to make a game out of it. Then I have to think, how can I design it also in a way that the person who wants to play it will have fun? And yeah, if you're a teacher, you will not get that out. How can you learn maybe a little bit with it? For example, when we made our first game, I really wanted to have flags in it, just as another level of. So that's how it affects sometimes your game design decisions. What do you want to do, and what do you want to put in from your background, and what you want to transport? Not only mechanism, fun, so also the idea.
So people can learn something
Yeah.
from it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in the pre-interview, you also mentioned about the three pillar of a great board game. Can you kind of touch on what are the three pillar that you guys look for, and how does those three pillar guide your design process?
Well, yeah. First of all, if I would say the three pillar idea, this is coming purely from our experience in what we've had so far, and what we came down to in the end after going through the whole process from the conception of an idea of starting a board game publishing company and making a project out, was that there is the game design itself, the whole process for the game design, testing the game, making the engine, like Julian said, how it comes across and the user experience, the visual communication, how do you communicate your design to the people? That's all one pillar. That's what people used to usually focus or try to always be start with, looking for. Thank you. The second pillar is actually all of that has to work with the idea of how to share that with the community and marketing, how to get your idea out there. So it's not how to present the idea as one thing, but how to get it out there is a second thing. And the third pillar is the publication of that, is the legal work, is all of the distribution, how to sell the idea afterwards. So you have to make it, design it, and visually communicate it. You have to socially communicate it to people and market it, and then you have to produce it and learn how to go through by selling the product at the end. Because these are the three main things that we found at the end make up or made the whole project possible for us.
I see. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I also want to kind of go back to the first project that you three have worked on together. I think it's the Wanderlust. And what inspired the concept, and what was the most exciting part about bringing that particular product to life?
Yeah, for when we all everybody of us developed a completely different game in different directions, but
At
it
that
was
time.
during at that time, and it was during the Corona time, and then I had the basic idea to make a traveling game, because that's one of the big. I think all of us love traveling, but that was during Corona one of the biggest thing we missed, and yeah, the basic game idea came from. How can I have the feeling of traveling put into another game? Yeah, to keep the essence of that, of finding new places. That's also why in the game there are a lot of places you will never see in another normal board game. It's not, of course, there are places like LA, but also like the Grand Prismatic Spring or some national parks somewhere in the world that normally are not mentioned in other games. Yeah, to transport this anxiety to find
unknown, I guess.
Yes,
explore.
Yeah, that was the basic concept idea, and then after I had that out, then mostly we worked in a team, because I like to design games, but both of them play much more games than me. So yeah, then it's like more I give it to Mahmoud more and Echo for also playtest, and then they developed it. And yeah, Mahmoud can.
I have to say, at this point, when Julian came up with the idea and the basic mechanics and the engine of the game and the concept of the traveling, especially like you mentioned during a time when that was not possible for everyone, all three of us saw the potential or a couple of potential in this particular project to start with as our first project to begin with. First was the theme and the concept and the wide variety of people that would take this theme well or receive the travel theme. Second was the level of complexity of the game played an important part in our decision for having it to begin with. That it was again an easy game to get into. It's not a niche product. It's not a hard game. It's a wider variety of audience that would like this game, and that's how we actually try to develop it later on together, is to make multiple levels, as we might come across later when we discuss that. And the third is that when Echo started to work on the artwork or the concept visual of the game, it made it more appealing that this is going to be a very appealing style game to begin with. And that accompanied with the fact that when we calculated or when we saw the arsenal of projects that we had at the time, Wanderlust was standing out as the most economic and best idea to start with across the other ideas that we had. And since all three of us, yes, we do have backgrounds that would help to assist, but at that point it was still a new industry. It's still new waters for us to traverse. So we didn't want something that would make it harder. We wanted something that we would learn everything through the process without overly complicating it. And we believe that Wanderlust was a good choice, thankfully, that the project actually went on to succeed and be very well received. And by chances, but what we thought at the beginning actually worked. So that was great.
I think one more point which make us choose this game was also that at the beginning we start going to the Essen Fair, and we had a lot of different prototypes there. And we had a very good reaction to that game for the first prototypes. Not only from people passing by, also people from the industry that says that it really not only looks very nice, but it also feels interesting when they saw it and tested it. Yeah, that was also, I think, one reason why we choose it as a first project.
It's a very
I
good
guess I'll
point,
add one
the
more
feedback,
point.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I'll add one more point. I think initially we also wanted to find a project that is not so complicated to produce at the beginning, because like we said, we both have other projects that was started already, and then we look through the project and then figured Wanderlust is actually semi-easy to produce game. So don't set us to failure. So we choose this one, say, okay, we can learn the process of producing, but also it's not that complicated for us to handle. So I guess it's multiple reasons what leads us to this decision to go forward with Wanderlust.
Okay. And if you walk through like our listeners through your game design process from where you start and how you refine the idea into finished product, what are some of the major things you look for, and how long does that took you to launch the first product?
How long does it took us? Oh boy, it's depending on project and project. I guess for Wanderlust, it took not that long. The game itself for design. Developer took some time to balancing things, but design, it didn't take that long, I guess. But I think if I were to say that if I were to design game, for me, it's always starting from the theme. I cannot just have some mechanism in my mind and trying to fit a theme in it. For me, I'm more like an imaginary. I have a lot of imaginary imagination in my brain, so I prefer to have like created the world first, and then if I can find a fitting mechanism that tested that it fits, then I will find a way to fit them together. But I guess for Julian it's a bit different how he started a game design process.
I think for me
guess.
I think for me it will be like I have something I like, and then I try to abstract something. How can I keep the essence of that?
Yeah,
what
you are
I
more
see?
mechanics.
Yeah. So I see something, and then I think, what can I use to put it into a system that will keep the spirit of what I would like to
Yeah,
represent.
that's what you get from you're a teacher, because
Yes.
that's how you need to teach children, that you need to get the essence out of something. That's why we're artists and you're a teacher. That's
Yeah.
why we have
And-
perfect jobs.
And after that, I think then it's the most important time, and that is that Mahmoud and Echo come to me and they tell me, okay, and now you have to think about this way and this way and this way to put other
Yes.
things inside, which is really a big help, because if
Mhm.
you have 3 people who are like on the same level, included in the project, and always give you feedback and input, so close, it gives you so much more new ideas, yeah, instead of that you just develop for a long time into a specific direction, and then you think and then somebody else from outside will come and say, yeah, no, you have to redo that because it doesn't work, or it only works for you. Yeah, so
I
that's
guess there's one characteristic when you learn designing. I mean, for me and Mahmoud, we don't start with the math or the calculation of things. I think we're starting about the theme and then thinking about how you want the experience of the player to be. I mean, Julian is really like he started with Excel sheets, like the perfect calculation of Excel sheet. And then every time we just testing the games the other day, and then me and Mahmoud, we're like more visual people. So if you show us, this is the board, these are the cards, and then the actions, we can imagine something. But Yulia showed us like a long Excel sheet that has actions and the math calculated. I mean, they both works. It's just so funny. It's so funny to see that everybody has their own approach how to start designing game. I think for me, it doesn't work. If you can give me the math, it wouldn't work. Yeah.
So, what are some of the key lessons that you learned from designing the first game, and how does that some of the lesson get translated to other project within the company?
Well, well, let me start by saying,
Yes.
first of all, the first lesson learned is that a game is never really finished. You cannot say that a game is completely designed. You can publish a game, but after some point, until now, we still come up with new ideas to how to work on it, or you get more feedback for every time, someone who plays your game. And like we were just mentioning right now, in our case, because of the diversity, we had kind of like an in-house uh, play
Debate?
testing every day, more or less.
Debate.
That's how it took us from the game design idea to the development process. And through that development, because we're 3 different style of games, 3 different people, so we kind of kept developing based on that, like Julian was saying, from all of the ideas that clash. And then when you play test with people, your developing keeps moving on into that direction. In our case, because the community was a big part of building this project, a lot of the feedback that we actually implemented on the game also came from the people that we shared the ideas with from to begin with. So that was a very important role in our design process as well, aside from our diversity in thinking in that way. And if you would ask me what lesson to take from the whole design process, aside from, of course, in general, to understand the time management or how much time you should put in every part of the process itself, that's one thing that you will get to learn by time, because it's different from one project to another and one team to another. But understanding that, and the second thing is that the design will always keep changing. The design will always keep developing. Everything should always be in the move. As a matter of fact, if something has not changed in a while, it's either 100% luck, which is quite rare to happen from the beginning, or that you would know that you would need to try testing or keep testing to make sure that every part in the game works, not only for you as a designer, but for the people who play the game.
Yeah.
So it's not just our own opinion as the 3 of us, which helped a lot that we have different opinions in the game, but the people, every time someone gives us feedback, that made us think in a different way that we didn't think about before. And that I would say something that we will not stop ever in every game that we want to make, not from the sense that we want to produce just our own idea, but rather our idea implemented in a way that everyone would enjoy it, because at the end, you're making the game for people to enjoy, not just for us to do.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing that insight as well. So I want to kind of switch focus to talk a little bit more about marketing. So because this is also the hardest part in the booking industry, as we all know, there's tons and tons of new board game that's being published on a daily basis nowadays. I feel like it's almost sometimes feel like a saturation point. So when it comes to marketing, what is some of the strategy that your company has tried so far, and what has been working or even not working that you could share with our audience?
Well, I mean, we tried a couple. We tried to put out ads. We tried to put Google ads or Amazon or Instagram. But I think for us as a small indie publisher, as 3 people actually truly, I mean, love board games, I think the most not easy way, however, it is the steady way for us. It is actually to build a community of a personal, more closer relationship. Because I think right now, I mean, back then when we started Wanderlust, we started having the Instagram account, and then I was talking to influencer, talking to normal people, because I mean, it's easier to connect because we all love games. In our Instagram account is we're not posting just our games. We're also posting the games that we usually play, and then we can say, okay, what we like, what we don't like, obviously, share honest opinions. And then in that way, you can also attract other people that also in the hobby, same like you, because we're all normal players. So I guess that way it kind of connect us with our audience a lot tighter, if I can say that. And then for us, that helped a lot more. It is going to conventions. For us, that is, I mean, I think I can say that every time when we're in convention, we can, I mean, for me, because I'm doing the marketing and PR, I can recognize our subscribers. I can say, hi, they're truly friends. I mean, so for me, that is at least for a small indie publisher, when we cannot compete with big budget with other big, huge companies, I think this is more effective way.
Yeah.
For us.
There is one thing I would like to add, that from the beginning, again, and that might matter to someone or from the listeners who are interested or thinking about the idea of having their own company, is that marketing is a very big, important role, like Eva was saying, but at the same time, it's one of the big hindrance for people because it requires a lot of money. It requires a lot of budgeting. And depends, if you later on research, and you would recognize how much you need to spend for one project in order to see the returns. And at the time when we decided to make Pektis together, or Wanderlust as our first project, not only that we all have day jobs, and this was something on the side for us, it was not a full-time job yet. We didn't also plan to have a big investment or a lot of money invested in this project to begin with, because we said, okay, we want to have some risk, but not high enough because we're still learning. So, like Echo mentioned, making a community, relying on building a community is one way that, yes, it is very time consuming. It is a lot of work. It is hard.
Yes.
But it was very effective. And as a matter of fact, in our case, it was one of the main things that contributed to the success of the game. Because without that community, it would have been very hard for us to actually succeed
Yes.
without it.
Yeah.
So there is a lot that you need to put into that thought of how you want to market it or how you want to get your idea across, whether you want to go straight forward. If you have a big budget, then that can be one way. In
Easier,
our case,
I guess.
yeah, we decided
Less
to
time
do
consuming,
everything.
let's put it like that.
Yeah, like I mentioned, yeah, we tried to do everything ourselves, at least for this project, so that we learn how it's done. And in our case, actually, that was very effective, I would say.
I think
see.
one point was also that Mahmoud made a very, very good online tutorial how to play the game. So the
Yeah.
people really said, after they watched it, a lot of people said, oh, it's so clear to understand. Yeah, and I like the concept. And now I really get the essence of how to play it and how it works. And the other part is also because of the costs, for example, we collaborated with a couple of Instagrammers
Mhm.
or influencers.
Also YouTubers as well.
Yeah, and YouTubers like Alex from Board Game Co. But we had really the advantage that we didn't have to pay any money for that. Of course, they would do us any favor because we give them a game, but none of them gave us a really bad feedback. So the answers from the reviews from the influencers were
Also helped a lot.
were really, really good for us so far. If they compare it
Yeah.
to other games and they said it is like blah blah blah, but I actually like it more. Or for example, or also later that we get from the Dice Tower, the seal of approval, which also was big
It was a
accomplishment
boost.
for us
Yeah.
that we get mentioned by such a company with big reputation. Yeah. So
Yeah.
So when you so I want to kind of a little bit deeper on the community building. So what is the main channel that has been effective for you? You mentioned about Instagram, but is there any other particular channel that you're using to really connect with your communities?
Mostly Instagram. We know that it's not the most effective way, but at the very beginning of our Wanderlust journey, we didn't have a website back then. Back
Okay.
then. So Instagram, it is the most intuitive way because you can do it anytime. You can check it anytime. I'm not sure if Instagram it is the way it was, maybe. I'm not sure. I think now you need to kind of put in also a lot of money for it. But I guess if we didn't want to invest that much money, or if we don't have that much money, then we need to invest time. So I was really talking to everyone, no matter your follower account is big or small. I think the easy part for us is that we all truly love board games. So we can go on someone else's post on the comment. We can really just discuss another game. So that helped us, I guess, like I said, so it make the connection between human a lot closer. It's not on the company customer level, but like more just sharing about board games level. I
Okay.
guess so. Yeah, that Instagram, that helps us a lot because we can always check it like daily.
and I think when Echo talks about Instagram, it's not like people who use Instagram by sending pictures. She really has all the people in the DMs. So it's more like a direct communication to the
Yeah,
people. So
yeah,
when we go to a fair, we really, the people come to her and we know
yeah.
the
They say
people.
hi.
So it's not like,
They're like,
you are blah, blah, blah. No, it's really like there's
yeah, they don't
communication
see me
between.
as a PR person for Pektis. They see me as someone just nerd enough to design our own games and actually dedicating my time to do something that we like. And we happen to have something in common. We all just love board games. So, like I said, every time when there are people pass by, I feel like I'm talking to friends. It's not really, I'm trying to sell you something. I know they like what we do. Also, I think it's very important that your customer like you for you are as a person instead of just your one game, I
We
think.
also
Yeah.
for our Kickstarter campaign, we gave the people the possibility. We have some cards inside, which are people you meet on the trip while you travel the world, and these actually are people who backed the game. So they helped us finance the game, so they paid a little bit more for becoming a direct character
A
inside the
card
game. Yeah,
inside
and
the game.
Okay.
and then
Okay.
actually
Yeah.
they had to talk with Echo, and Echo draw them in the way they want. For example, we had
Yes.
one couple,
Oh,
I think it
wow.
was for
Okay.
their 20, it was the gift from the husband, from Tom, I think, to his wife.
It is so heartwarming
Yeah.
because I think everyone back that pledge, they buy that game, that they buy that encounter cards, they all for someone else as a gift, either anniversary gift or birthday gift. It is so cute. And then there's people like coming to us, even though I think there's one Essen that we have prototypes with the card printed. However, we don't have the physical product yet. And then there's people coming like, I just want to come over to see my card.
And every
Yeah,
year
it's very cute.
we also give away postcards, which I could draw sometimes special for that. And then people really come just to collect our postcards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Okay.
for yeah, exactly. So for example, when we're at the convention, we know that there are a couple of cheap flyers you can just give people on the way, but we kind of didn't want to do that because first, usually when you don't do like a good quality, people don't really treasure it. They will just throw it in the garbage. So it doesn't
Yeah.
really stay in your household. So for us, good that we have a traveling game. So what our idea was actually to print some of our city image that I drew on a postcard. And then on the back side, you can actually send it as a postcard. So, and
Okay.
it's really high quality, proper postcard. So like so like 2 years ago we printed 5 sets, and then last year we printed another 5 plus one limited edition just Essen. So like Julian said, really people come like I was here last year, but this year there's new postcards. I'm just gonna get the new postcards. So it was another, I guess, more interesting way to promote your games in a convention.
and
Yeah, I like the idea. Very different. So
I even
And
saw people actually using it because we have a board game cafe here, and then I saw other people using it, sending from London to because the image was London, and then they brought the postcards to London, and then in London they sent it back to the board game cafe, and then right now it's hanging on the wall. It's really cute.
oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
just we some time for some month we also try to do Twitch like every week a couple of times, but with
But that
our
was
main
playing
job
someone else's game.
it also was fun because we also had viewers who every time came and talked with
Yes,
us, and we still meet them. It's a lot of people from Netherlands, and we always meet them in Essen and the fair. But actually, for us, it's at the moment it was just
it's
really
really
a
hard.
lot of work, and especially when you have different projects they have to finish or when I have to do work, so we couldn't keep that pacing up, and then we concentrated more on
Yeah.
the designing part because it takes all time from main job to yeah.
Designing. Yeah. So
and I would like to add to this on top is that at the end, our main social communication was through Instagram. That our community became a lot more than just on Instagram. It became whenever we went to a fair or whenever we meet a product, they always support. And I guess for us, that was our main focus is everything on the community that we try to create or be part of and nourish that. And like Julian said, we tried a couple of things. We tried to reach out with some videos, some live playthroughs. Like Echo said, we post when we play because it makes you more human, it makes you more connected. And in this way, you don't need to rely more on advertising to try to get people you don't know. But in a sense, it's kind of a word of mouth between the people that know you really well. And for a starting project, depending on the budget that you need to start the production for this project, if like in our case, it wasn't a very high starting point, so you don't need to reach that many people from the beginning. You don't need to invest so much from the beginning.
yeah.
But in the way that we try to do it is that we try to earn friends, have fun, and be able to support us making one game. And that and in our case, yeah, that's what happened.
And the friend stayed.
And the friends stayed, exactly.
Yeah.
It is
We even visit one of the bakery in Malta, and
Yeah.
now he's working at another board game company as a graphic designer. It's really cool.
or also we really become like not close, but we became friends with the guy in China, Derek, who actually helped us
Our
producing
project
the
leader.
game at Longpack. So every time there's a fair or something, we always say, "Hey, Derek, are you here? Can we meet? Can we do something?" So
Yeah.
yeah, it's also
Yeah,
fun.
yeah,
I guess for small indie, I would say if you cannot compete with the money, then keep it personal. Personal in a sense that tighter friendship, tighter relationship. Yeah.
I see, I see. And I think one more thing that's very unique. Thank you so much for sharing that. The postcard story. I really like that. The post
Yeah.
approach. I don't think a lot of companies have tried that. But you also work really well with the travel theme.
Yes, that was the idea.
So
That
it
was the
worked
idea.
perfectly. So
At
and
first, actually, we thought about printing maybe stamps, and then in Germany, I think you're not allowed to print stamps, so we just changed it to postcards.
oh,
Yeah.
I see, I see.
Yeah.
And one of the I think a lot of the board game designer I talk to, one of the major decision they need to make is self-publishing versus licensing. So I also want to kind of hear a little bit about how you guys think about like when you make that decision to go self-publishing instead of just licensing your board game to a bigger publisher. How do you make that decision, and what are some of the things that you consider to go? And I think right now, if I understand correctly, it's mostly self-publishing right now. So
Yeah. Well, Julian, would you like to take
It's
over?
a good question.
Yeah, it's a really
Mahmoud, you
good
can
question.
start, and I take with the
Yeah.
licensing
Okay.
part.
So that's a very good question, and it's a very important question, something to consider from the beginning. Like I said, in our case, in our particular case, in our studio, we wanted to do the self-publishing, even if it would have failed, but just so that we learn the process, we learn the nuance of how do you go through it, how do you acquire the pricing, how do you make the legals and everything. So our aim at the beginning was to try to self-publish it, however, rely on crowdfunding, again, with the same point of not having a huge investment to begin with for your first project. And whether it worked or not, you would learn the process. At the same time, the thought of licensing the game it's very, very hard if you, especially if you are an indie or if you're a first-time designer, a first-time publisher, because which makes sense from a business point of view. You need, or publishers need credibility. Publishers don't want to take risks, especially for people who it's their first project. So unless you have a game that you made really well, developed really well, balanced really well, and it's within the criteria of the people that are trying to the publishers, because each publisher have their own criteria in that sense. So you're jumping here between the line whether is this a personal project for you that you want to do a game, or is it a business that you want to make a profitable project? So you need to decide how you feel about the project first at the beginning. So for Wanderlust at the beginning, we decided no, we're gonna go. We tried to speak also with publishers at the time to see how they perceive the game, how with that, and we learned a lot from that. And there were ridiculous offers that they actually didn't make sense, and thankfully we didn't consider
We
them at
didn't
the
take
beginning.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like some were taking advantage of someone being a novice, which also understandable. But we decided to go with the route of self-publishing, and that's how we decided. Right now, after our first project, when we went through the process of that, first of all, we have enough budget now to self-publish ourselves smaller games, and we have more connections in the community that we start to reach out to more publishers. And having a game already published gives you more credibility. So in our case, we start to consider, okay, if we want to go further, there are some projects would work better if they're just licensed, and some projects would work better if we self-publish them. But I think Julian can take over from this point to explain where we at. Yeah.
I also think that because we work very much from the theme, all of us have an idea, imagine what they want to do. The ways we work is different. And I think if you want to give the game to a publisher, not publish it on your own, then it's very much that you sell the mechanism, you sell the concept, how it works, and then they are free to change the theme, whatever you want.
Yeah.
That doesn't really give you the yeah the
The
possibility
control,
to
yeah.
the control to
Yeah,
do it in the way you want. For example, we're also looking for, still, if there's any publisher listening in the United States or in Europe or anywhere which is not Belgium or China, because then we gladly find some great partners. Yeah, we very often had the problem that they said it is a fun, it looks very nice, but it's hard to see from the packaging if it's, because it's pretty big. It's a big game, or it looks like a big game. It looks like a lot of stuff. It's very easy to learn, but it also then has to fit in the catalog of the publishers you want to sell it for.
Yeah,
And
their own profile.
then you also have the possibility, but if they don't think it, they think it looks like a family game, but it looks a little bit too complicated, and the buyer in the end, he will just look at it, and he has not the possibility to play it. So this way we have much more the freedom to decide how we want to in which direction we want to lead the game, and to bring out our own vision.
I guess for us, we sum up to this decision has to be made before we actually design the game or go further game developing. So we have to decide, okay, so this is the game that, okay, we're mainly focusing on the mechanism, then we don't mind actually approach to other publisher trying to find a licensing, because for us at that point, the theme is not that important or not that interesting. But if it's really one of our passion project that we created the world, then we wanted to have the maximum control sort of over the project, then we would like to keep it within us, so we self-publish. Basically, I think that's a decision that the designer should make at the beginning.
Yeah.
No, there's an asterisk there, because self-publish comes with a lot of baggage behind it.
Don't
So
recommend it. Don't recommend.
it's just something for designers or the young people who are entrepreneurs to also learn about. That is that how does the self-publish process go? Because that is a lot of things that we learn through this process as well, and it takes in the consideration in the games that we are, like Echo mentioned, working on, and now the new games. From the beginning, it made sense, okay, what to focus on in the game and what not to focus on. And if we're going to self-publish it, for example, then we try to reduce the components or the complexity of the components because we've been through that before. We know the pricing, we know the things, we know the weight of the game is something that we learned about. The number of rule books, the languages, and all of these things. It has an effect when you're developing or designing a game. Which direction is it go? That doesn't mean by any chance that, again, if it's a passion project, like Echo said, then you would like to have control of it. Just know if you are not going the self-published route, then you would come across with the publisher's demands rather than, so you're doing it as a business, not as a passion project. That's just to keep in mind.
Yeah, but I mean, one important point is if you already know you'd rather approach publisher, then before you go further with the concept design, then try to look at what kind of profile fit in this publisher, so you're not really wasting your time. You have an idea knowing that what game they're looking for, then you can approach them with the design.
And I think that's also a very different route, because being a publisher myself, we publish or we design a lot of toys, and that was not a very easy decision to make, because it definitely make the business model a lot more complex. There's a lot more moving pieces. There's supplier you need to talk to, you need to negotiate. There's cash flow, there's finance spreadsheet that you need to look at. So, but I think it's also more rewarding at the end of the day for self-publishing, because you create the whole thing from scratch, from zero. Whereas if you're just licensing it to a bigger publisher, you just say, okay, here's a half-finished product. Do whatever the other half you want to do with it, and just run with it, and you lose control after.
100%. Yeah, 100%. That's comes back to the point is that you need to decide on your project from the beginning. Are you doing this as a passion project? Are you doing this as, if it's your own business, how much control or how much from the thought that you want to put into this game? And if you're doing this as something that you want to just get it out and you have more ideas, it's not about one project, then maybe, like you mentioned, that the gratification would be from just giving the license to other publisher and not going through the hassle of the publishing itself. But it is definitely has its setbacks, and it's very rewarding when you do self-publish at the end.
I still remember the first time when we got the pre-production prototype, we're holding the meeples in our hand. We're like, we drew this.
Yeah, exactly.
We drew this line by line. Yeah, that was really, really rewarding.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being again on the podcast. And as we're wrapping up in today's interview, the final question I like to ask all the guests is, if you had to share just one piece of advice with someone that's getting started in the board game industry, what would that be?
Mahmoud, you can start first. I think we all have different ones.
Okay.
I can. Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
Okay. For me, if you want to work in the industry and you want to publish on your own, a lot of things can change very fast, especially when it's about shipping. And that is, for me, that was the biggest thing first to learn, like tax, laws, contracts, and that you have to learn all that at once. And even if you plan things very through, if the shipping price change, it can bring you a lot of difference if there is something in Yemen or there's something in Egypt, and there's something somewhere, this has a big influence. So always plan a buffer, and always think about something you have in your backhand.
It's good advice. For me, I would say, if I would give one piece of advice to anyone who's thinking about making their own business or starting this business, is you have to have a very clear idea on what you want to do. Whether you want to make, what type of company, what type of business that you want to make, because that will define how much investment, time, effort that you would put in the project, if you would do it alone or if you would need to rely on other people, if you're gonna self-publish it, if you're gonna crowdfund it, if you're gonna try to license it. All of these things you have to know from day one before you start, because they will define the process. And follow up on the design, like Julian said, is forever changing. Keep that in mind. Feedback from the community, engage with the community, and sell your design, sell your ideas online.
Yeah, I guess for me, my point is kind of like Mahmoud's idea, because one of our game kind of suffered this problem that we need to, I mean, obviously we right now, if we have a game, we wanted to produce it and obviously sell it. So the problem with that game is we need to have a clear audience in mind when you approach the concept. I think there's one game that we worked on. It keep changing in the process. It leads to, for us, it's really hard for us to see how can we market this game or how can we sell this game. So right now this game is on hold. So it would be really great if you wanted to sell the game, obviously, eventually, then you always need to think, who is this game for? Who is your target audience? Speaking from a marketing person, I guess. So that would make your design process a lot clearer. Yeah. So that is also, I guess, for us, the important lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Where is the
Thank you for
best
having us.
place for people to find you online?
So we have website, pektis.com, and then you can also follow us on Instagram. It's pektis.studio on Instagram.
Okay. I'll make sure we put that in the show note. And for our listeners, thank you again for tuning in to this episode of Toy Business Unboxed podcast. We really hope you have enjoyed the conversation and find it insightful and inspiring. If you like what you have heard, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. We really appreciate your support and we'd love it if you can leave us a review and share the podcast with your friend and colleague. For more resource tips and the latest update within the toys and game industry, visit our website at toy-launch.com. Join the conversation and connect with us on social media using hashtag Toy Business Unboxed. We'd love to hear your feedback and suggestion for future episodes. Until next time, keep innovating, keep creating, keep bringing joy through toys. This is Jason Shea signing off on the Toy Business Unboxed podcast, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Jason.
you.